What's up? It's your boy D Change coming at ya with another Daily Dave. Today, I want to tell you about my friend, the one and only, your boy, C. Beckman. He was recently on a podcast called the Tokyo Podcast, which is actually run by an acquaintance of mine. We had worked together for approximately like a month or something like that. Maybe a few months actually. So the guy's name is Anthony Joe. I think I've mentioned him before because he's talked about what's really funny about Anthony, and he would probably agree if he heard me say this, is that he spent so much time being an expat in Tokyo that he felt like he had enough of it. So he left. He went back, tried to go back home to Canada, and felt like it just wasn't for him. You know, he felt more comfortable being an expat, so he moved back to Japan, and then he tried to open up a travel company, and then COVID-19 hit. So, whoops. But he interviewed my friend and former manager Chris Baek, who happens to come from the same like area as me. Like we probably grew up mere blocks away from each other, but our paths never crossed until we worked together at the same company. So that's super interesting. But Chris went on Anthony's show to talk about entrepreneurship in Japan, and it really reminded me of an idea that a close friend of mine had for opening up a business in Japan. So will that ever happen? I don't know. Maybe ask us in like 10 years or something like that, right? So, but in general, I think that's something we've, a lot of us have thought about, people, like friends have talked with me. We've exchanged ideas about like, what could we do to start a business there or to bring some sort of idea there. So it's always in the back of my mind, like way in the back. I need to be reminded of it every now and then. But I was just really impressed with the way Chris spoke about his experiences. I do like that, they were very careful about mentioning any names. And I was very impressed with what Chris talked about on that podcast in terms of like, what were the challenges you found? What's the difference between taking a company from 0 to 1 versus 1 to 10, right? And I really love the fact that he said, giving the people that work for your company the tools to succeed is so important, because the people are your company. And I couldn't agree more. Like the more like business related stuff I kind of consume and get into, the more I realize that's a very prevalent theme everywhere. Like I feel like the most successful companies, try their best to invest in their employees and to really like empower them, right? There's plenty of like mumbo jumbo and failed attempts and poor working conditions and bad management and leadership and stuff like that, and I think that's very natural. But I think the underlying I don't know, I like using the word ethos now, like the ideal, right, is to aim for that type of view. And so I also found it very enlightening to hear him talk about, it's so different when before you were handling operations of a business and you're just surrounded by people, and then when you become an entrepreneur, you're alone, and you're alone with your thoughts. You got to figure everything out. Accountability is higher, right? Like technically you're not reporting to someone above you, you're reporting to yourself. So it was really cool. So yeah, it was a really good listen. I would definitely recommend it. Love that, he did not take out the fact that he was an anime geek, did the whole cosplay thing, and played World of Warcraft, like we can never forget our roots, right? So even if we've tried to abandon them. But it was a super cool listen. And Chris has been on some other media in the past as well. And he recently celebrated 2 years running his company. So I think that's fantastic. I remember when he told me that he was gonna do this. I was like, man, they're going to the moon. It's gonna happen, right? So yeah, super cool to hear that they've made a lot of progress and that he's doing fine over there, and that yeah, that he's, he and his friends, his loved ones are all doing all right during this crazy time, so to speak, in these unprecedented times, right? So, and yeah, like Anthony Joe relaunched this podcast because it's like you might as well. You're now just stuck at home, and it was funny because he said he thought about where he should kind of bunker down for coronavirus, and he thought, oh, Japan's probably safer than Canada right now because the case numbers are lower. And then it was like, nah, I don't know, because Japan was actually hiding the numbers because they wanted the Olympics to happen. To be fair, though, yes, but I might want to argue that Japan might still be okay. But I don't know. They're like a big question mark. They like Japan and Sweden are very interesting situations where you can argue either way, because Sweden's doing the whole like, I guess we'll do social distancing and herd immunity question mark. But yeah, there's plenty of ways you can take it. So I feel like they're in interesting spots because they're not super bad, but they're not super good either. So unfortunately, according to modeling, that means their projections will get worse. But I think that's going to be the case with like anyone, right? Any country where, if you're not taking stricter measures, things could spiral out of control. Or you could just have some sort of weird miracle. Like you could just not test anyone. But I also feel like you will experience the crush of healthcare system failure if you just allow anything to happen. So anyway, yeah, it's really good to kind of to hear these guys' voices, since like we're not as in touch as like I would like us to be. But yeah, it was just funny because Anthony did a show. He like his first relaunch episode was about why he went back to Japan, and it was basically what I told you. I think he just realized, like, you know what, coming back home, I thought it was going to be like super great, but the grass is always greener on the other side. And yeah, I legitimately think he likes expat life more. Like he's the type of guy who's not super interested in like, oh, I'm gonna really assimilate into Japanese culture. It's definitely not him. He likes to stand out. He likes to be the odd man out, the entrepreneur in a very vertically integrated business system. So it's cool. I mean, I would recommend checking out those 2 episodes. Though he still says a bat soup caused COVID-19. So I don't know about that, Anthony. I don't know, man. That's it's inconclusive. But yeah, it was really cool to I don't know. It's like I always find it really interesting and cool to hear people I know on other podcasts, and it's even more interesting to hear people I know do podcasts and interview people I know. So this was like the perfect timing. And yeah, Chris just had it on his Instagram, and I was like, wait a minute, this show sounds really familiar. I think I've listened to it. Like, yeah, of course I have. It's Anthony's, right? So, and that was really funny because I remember something that stuck with me is that Anthony told me that like, yeah, I came to Japan a little too late. He was like, dude, you speak Mandarin? You should really brush up on your Mandarin because there's a lot of Chinese tourists here, and that's where the money is. And I was like, oh, dang it, I'm too weeb. I ruined myself, But yeah, I don't know. Like sentiments are really weird right now, right? Because now clearly there's not very many Chinese tourists. But moving on from now, who knows how things are gonna go, from a like global tourism and geopolitical standpoint. So we'll see. I'm not particularly looking forward to a lot of things in the future, but I'm only going to I'm going to try my best to just keep myself in my world, one step at a time, worry about what I can control, and just do the best at what's in front of me, not what's 50 steps in front of me, right? So we're not taking over the world anytime soon, boys. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, those are my recommendations for today. I hope you check them out. And yeah, thanks for listening to the Daily Dave. Glad you are joining me. The dog also says hi. And yeah, I hope you have a good one. And I will see you in the next one. Peace out, guys.